So we're welcome to class again. This is performance management class, and in the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about budgeting and budgetary control. We've looked at issues of cash budgets, production budgets, flex budgets, flexible budgets. Yes, the last one was flexible budgets, and in that class, I solved an example that requires us to use high-low method and to determine variable costs based on 100%, but that variable cost can also be determined per unit, variable cost per unit. I decided to go in the approach of 100%, and the assignment from the ICANN Pathfinder past question, when you solve that, you get your variable cost based on per unit. And I think the response, the solution I got was very okay. Yes, we displayed good understanding of the concept of what is required of us. Yes, that is very nice. So let's keep it up, and shows we are following. Yes, so I know over time some persons might have attempted the question, but you don't know the idea, the rationale towards solving that. But it's a good one. At least shows we are following, and I'm happy likewise, and is a signal that I need to do more. Yes, because when you are not giving me the reaction I expect, I will also be relaxed. But it's a push that I need to do more, and I trust God to do more. So tonight we'll be talking about standard costing that will lead to variance. Yes, that will lead to variance. So when we talk about standard costing, even though in most of my teachings, I've been talking about standard costing, standard cost card, standard cost card. Talking about standard costing, what actually are we referring to? What actually are we referring to when we talk about standard costing? Standard costs. We talk about standard costs. Now, this standard costing is a control technique. Standard costing is a control technique in which predetermined costs, when I say predetermined costs, that is standard cost assets. So the standard cost shows that for every organization, for you to make production, you have a standard template, you have a standard cost. For those of you that bake, you have a standard to produce a cake. Maybe the small pan of a cake, you know the sizes you call them. You know there is a standard measurement for you to get an expected outcome. For example, using Coca-Cola, there is a standard formula. For Coca-Cola, for you to get the right taste. And when the standard is not followed, the actual varies. So the standard cost is set to ensure that every organization follows, or an organization follows the standard that has been set in order that an expected outcome will be achieved. So where the standard is not followed, you will not get the expected results. So this standard costing is a control technique where costs are set for materials, for labor, for overhead. And when these costs are set as standard, once the actual performance is carried out, the actual cost is compared with the standard. And when you compare this standard with your actual, you identify variance. You identify variance. And when you identify variance, variance is not a taboo. Variance is not something that you run away from. The essence of variance is for you to control. And when it comes that you ask yourself question as a production manager, why am I experiencing this variance? And once you identify the variance, you look for measures to guide against such variance in subsequent production um, activity. So, in short, I would say that standard cost is a benchmark that is set to compare with actual performance. To compare with actual performance. So you set a benchmark, you compare your actual, you analyze the difference, and the difference will lead you to take action. And what kind of action? Corrective action. So standard cost is set to serve as a benchmark to checkmate your actual results. And where you are not getting the standard that has been set based on your actual performance, you ask yourself some questions. Yes. As we're planning to write May 2026 diet exam, you should have a standard set for yourself. Yes. You should have a standard set for yourself. Your reading plan that come what may, except on natural circumstances that you cannot run away from. Or if it is activities that will make me deviate from my reading plan, such as going for birthday parties, such as going for wedding ceremonies, such as spending times on movies that will not yield me results. Things that you have control over, I should make sure they don't make me to deviate from the standard. But there are certain things that can definitely make you deviate from the standard. God forbid, ill health. Yes, because you don't have control. It's when you have sound health that you can reach. Yes, it's when you have sound health that you can reach. So, standard costing. Let me read from what I have on this slide. The word standard cost represents an estimated or predetermined total cost of production per unit for an organization. So when you see standard cost card is a cost estimate for just a unit of production. For just a unit of production. So the process of estimating the total cost of production per unit is described as what? Standard costing technique. So if the estimated total cost of product for a big organization is based on the total unit produced, then the procedure is described as what? Budgeting system. So the budget is for overall the total unit produced, while standard cost is just for a unit produced. For a unit produced. Now, the essence or the objective of standard cost is cost control and reduction. For please, can you put your question on chat box? For cost control and reduction. Or if you have a comment, just put it on chat box. For cost control and reduction, that is one of the objectives of standard costing. Um, it's it's aid in performance measurement. It's aid in performance measurement because when you have a standard and the actual there's a deviation from the standard based on the actual result, it calls for performance evaluation. It calls for performance measurement. So, and one thing with standard costing is that it aid in efficient budget management, efficient budgeting. And because you have a guide already, and the guide is your standard. So you always make sure that you work to see how you can achieve your standard. And this will in a bit help management in decision making. And once the set standard is achieved, it will be a motivation for the employees of the organization. Now, my own set standard as far as this diet is concerned is to see that students of this forum pass their paper. So once we write the exams and we pass, it shows that I've achieved my own set standard, and I'll be glad to post your your sweet comments on my WhatsApp status. Yes, so I'm waiting to post some comments on my status. Yes, what is the question, Mr. Felix?
Thank you. My end here is breaking. I don't know. Maybe it's network. What's
It's
the connection
breaking.
between the standard? What's the connection between the standard and the budget? Because as I was just reading the slide, I saw the procedure is described as budgeting system. Is standard and budget, are they the same thing, please? Hello, sir.
Okay, I think there is a break in your network is breaking, sir. Can you come again?
Yes, what I'm saying is, please, what's the link between the standard and the budgeting? As you described in the slide, that the procedure is described as budgeting system. Is standard and budgeting, are they the same thing, sir?
I said that standard cost is for a unit of production. For a unit. Then the total, when you look at total cost, the overall cost of producing the total unit, you term it as what? Budget. It's budget. So when you are trying to look for the cost of producing one unit, you see it in your standard cost card, which you are going to see, very soon.
Okay.
So when it is overall total units, you term it as budget. And
thank you, sir.
From the slide, all right. On the slide, you can see that the process of estimating the total cost of production per unit is described as what? Standard costing technique. One unit, standard costing technique. While total cost of production of product for a big organization is based on total units. When you're looking at total unit, then you are referring to what? The budget system. The budget system. So looking at this standard costing, there are various forms of standard. There are various types of standard. We have ideal standard. Ideal standard. I'm taking my time to explain this. You cannot tell. A question can come in a written form. You should know it. Ideal standard. When we talk about ideal standard, what are we referring to? Ideal standard is a standard that talks about perfect condition. Is a perfect that assumes that everything must be perfect. That you must not come late to work. Yes. All things being equal, by 8 a.m., you should be in your office. You should be on your desk. It does not consider the fact that there can be traffic on your way. It does not give room for excuses that your wife is pregnant, you cannot come to work today. That is ideal standard. It assumes that everything must be in a perfect state, in a perfect condition. It does not give room for wastage. You are working in a manufacturing organization and you are telling your factory manager that the quantity of chemical is not sufficient based on what have been planned. The standard does not give room for excuses. But the question is, this ideal standard, is it achievable? It's very achievable. Yes, because as humans, you will definitely experience certain form of setback. Yes, as you try to make sure that you meet up with your desires. So this ideal standard, this may be described as an established standard, specifically designed on the basis of maximum productive capacity of the organization. That is, you have the capacity to produce 100 units. The ideal standard is saying you must produce that 100 units. There is no room for excuse. There is power outage, there is power breakdown, there is machine breakdown. It does not give room for that. So, but the question is, this is really attainable. So standard established without providing adequately for any negative factor that may inhibit the attainment of the standard. That standard is termed as the ideal standard. The ideal standard. That is a type of standard. Ideal standard. The standard that's work based on the fact that all conditions must be perfect. Please, can you hear me?
No,
Now
sir.
it's
No, sir. Your
breaking.
Hello,
network
can
is
anybody hear
breaking.
me?
Network is breaking.
Just that the network is breaking, but we are hearing it.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think anybody is calling me now. I don't have a call. I think it means it's a situation that I cannot fight. It's a situation that I cannot, except maybe I switch to another network. But there's nobody that is calling presently. It's when I have calls and it begins to break.
Okay, let's be doing manage it, sir.
But I think you can hear me now. Well, so that which is time as attainable standard. Another standard known as what? Attainable standard. Attainable standard. This attainable standard is a standard that is efficient. Is a standard that that is practical. Is a standard that is realistic. It recognizes that you are not perfect. We are not perfect. It recognizes that there should be room, at least little room, for excuses, because it is a standard that looks at practicality of things in an organization. As human, definitely there will be time that you will need certain rest and you might not need to be at your workplace. This standard recognizes that. This standard recognizes that there will be time where we have idle time. There will be time whereby the machine will even break down in an organization. So this standard is termed as the attainable standard. And based on the slide, I said this attainable standard is also referred to as a practical standard. And this represents an established standard specifically premised on what is considered practicable within the organization. So practical standard is established with adequate provision for negative factors that may affect the attainment of the established standard. So this standard is most preferred because what you cannot attain, you shouldn't set a standard beyond your ability. Yes, I know myself that this is what I can do.
Excuse
The
me, sir.
standard I'm
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
setting should be. No, I acknowledge your hand. Don't worry, I acknowledge you.
Okay.
Question mark.
Please, sir. Please, sir. I don't know. Maybe you can switch to another network. Maybe you can switch to another network. This topic is not something we should be playing with. Please. Your network is very bad today.
But I can't hear him.
It is breaking over here. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe it
but
is
it's
from my
breaking.
side. Maybe it's from my side.
It's
Net-
breaking.
Not
The
from my
line is
side.
breaking.
The network,
It's breaking.
It's breaking.
Let's be real.
So
It's breaking.
just trying
Let me
to
switch
catch
to
up
another
with the
network.
slide.
Don't worry, just give me a few minutes. Let me switch to another network.
Network is not good, yes, sir.
okay. The network has been breaking.
When I switch to another network and it keep breaking on some ends, then I will now do a research analysis and know the people that are getting break in the communication. So I will now do the network so that I can show an insight if the problem is from my own side. So can you hear me now? I've switched my network
Perfectly.
to another.
Perfectly.
It's okay, sir.
It's no longer breaking, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's fine. So talking about the attainable standard. So this is a standard that recognizes efficiency, and the efficiency is in its realistic nature, that it gives, and that is why it is attainable. The fact that as an organization, your capacity sense, you shouldn't set a standard that is 50% for yourself. It will be realistic with your condition. Yes, and work towards that. And as you work towards that, you make more profit, you expand to more attainable standard. So current standard, these are standards that are set based on current operating conditions, because your operating condition as at yesterday might varies from that of today's own. As at yesterday, you might be very weak, but today you might be very agile and strong. So this is a standard that is set based on the prevailing condition as at the present. That is current standard. Based you have 3 machines working. You have one working. Suits that condition as at that point in time. Based on the slide, we said this will be described as an established standard working condition within the organization or the industry at large. Then we have basic standard. Basic standard or really they are standard that really change. They've been set over time for like 50 years, and they don't just change like that. They don't just change like that. So they are basic to you tell some certain persons to change certain things, they'll tell you, no, this is how we've been doing it over time. And it's standard. They are standard that have been set, even though technology and time have made them to be out of the present, to be outdated. But still, certain persons still want to keep such standard because maybe such standard have been helpful to them and they don't want to update or upgrade to the modern trend. So basic standards are long-term standard that have been set over time and they rarely change. Based on the slide, I said these will represent an old established standard designed principally to satisfy a given objective. Maybe the organization has certain mission statement, have certain vision, objective, and they want to keep the standard that have been set over time. This does not change because they are always looking backward, remembering the good old days, and to see that the standard is sustained. So these are long-term standard and they don't change with time. They rarely change. Yes, except maybe in an organization where you have change in board of directors, change in the management team, and these people are coming with new sets ideas, and they might decide to deface the old basic standard and come up with another basic standard, which will not just change. Yes, because you must have a vision, and a vision is a long-term thing that will be achieved, even though you have some medium-term means, channels, to see that the long-term objective of the organization is achieved. So the basic standard in simple terms, they are long-term, which they rarely change. I'll put it that way. Relationship between standard costing and variance. The relationship between standard costing and variance. Standard costing, the fact that they are set of standard will always with the standard that have been set. And that is where the issue of variance will set in. So based on what I have on the slide, I said the word variance represents the difference between the standard cost of production and the actual cost of production. Variance. So it's a process of comparing standard, that is the planned cost or revenues, with actual results in order to identify, to analyze, and control the differences. And the differences is termed as the variance. So in simple terms, what we planned, what you planned versus what actually happened. The difference between what you planned versus what actually happened is variance. Not just identifying the variance now, you ask yourself, why the variance? Why the difference? So beyond the computation we will solve, we'll be coming across, we should ask ourselves, why the variance? Why the difference? Yes. So this is very important. So variance is the difference between the standard and the actual. Difference between the actual and the standard. Let me start my write-up gradually. Start my write-up gradually. Variance. Variance. So this variance now, the variance, Let's pick it gradually. Variance is what? Is standard. Standard less actual. Standard less actual. When we talk about variance, there are various types of variance. Various types of variance. I think I'll use a table to show that. I don't know if I even have a table here. There was a time I explained variance and I use a table to do that. I'll use a table to illustrate that, to make it more pleasant to us. So we have various types of variance. The question is, what constitutes variance? What are the elements of variance, or the element of cost? Let me put it that way, the element of cost. What make up cost? What make up cost? Can I get a response to that? What make up cost?
Material, labor,
Just okay, fine. Material.
overhead,
Okay. All right. So what make up cost of a thing is the quantity and the price. Yes, but under these issues, we look at material, we look at labor. You understand? So we can come up with costs. We can have the element of cost. The element of cost can be you can have price variance, we can have what? Quantity variance. Price variance, quantity variance. Now, when we talk about cost, one of the elements of cost item you mentioned just now, you said material, right? Material. What are materials? Materials are goods or substance, or they are raw materials, let me put it that way, that you transform into finished goods. They are components of finished goods. Now, for you to get material, what do you need? In terms of price, the point is this: under material variance, you can have material price variance and you can have material usage variance. Under material, you can have price variance, all right, material price variance. You can have what? Under quantity. Quantity has to do with what? Usage. You can have material usage variance. Now, talking about material price variance, in our this slide, we said variance is what? Standard less what? Actual. Variance is standard less actual. Now, if you are now looking at the issue of material price variance, what would be the components of this variance in terms of price? It means we should look at things like what? Standard price minus what? The actual price of the material. The standard price of the material less the actual price of the material. Now, this standard price less the actual price of the material will be weighted with what? Will be weighted with what? The actual quantity purchased. The actual quantity purchased. So in simple term, when you look at price variance, the difference between the price with what you actually bought, the difference between the standard price and the actual price multiplied by what? What you actually bought, the actual quantity purchased, material price variance. So when we talk about variance, what are you looking at? Standard and actual. You should have that with you. So when we now hear price variance, material price variance, now you should refer to what? What will be the standard price of the material comparing with the actual price of the material, weighted by what? The actual quantity purchased. Actual quantity purchased. So standard price less actual price multiplied by what? Actual quantity purchased. Actual quantity purchased. That is for material price variance. So the memory trick is this. The concept, the memory trick is this. Once I hear material price variance, I should look out for what? My standard price of material, my actual price of material, multiplied by what? What I actually purchase. What I actually purchase or bought. I don't know if this is clear.
Yes, sir.
It's clear, sir.
Fine. Please let this be clear so that when we move to the question, we'll be able to pick the variables. Now, in terms of material can be, you can see material price variance in material. You can see material usage variance in material. So talking about material usage variance, based on the fact that we know that variance is the difference between standard and actual, can you come up with the possible formula for the usage variance? The usage variance. Usage has to do with what? Quantity. Quantity now. So what do you think might be the possible formula?
So, standard quantity
Okay.
minus actual quantity multiplied by actual usage, actual material usage.
No,
Okay, okay. Yes, is a very good one. Yes. Can I get another
Hello,
trial?
sir. So I think it is going to be standard quantity minus actual quantity multiply by the price,
Standard price.
whether standard or actual price.
Standard quantity
Yes,
minus actual quantity multiplied by standard price.
standard price.
Okay.
Yes.
standard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So because we are trying to look at the difference between the usage, the standard quantity and the actual quantity. But I must say this. Please take note. There are two issues you must always relate with your actual. You know, we talked about flex budget last week. There are two issues you must always relate with your actual production, actual unit produced. One is your standard quantity. You know, you don't just say standard quantity. Standard quantity of what? You must know that. Standard quantity of what? So material usage variance is your standard quantity in terms of usage Not just standard quantity of actual production. Standard quantity of what? Actual production. It means when you have a question and you determine your actual quantity based on 1 unit, you have to flex that actual quantity, that standard quantity, with your actual unit produced. Yes, with your actual unit produced. You must know that. They will not tell you. So there are two things you flex. You flex your standard quantity and your standard hour. That is the standard. Your standard quantity and your standard hour. What do I mean by flex? It means you multiply your standard quantity with your actual production in units. You multiply your standard hour with your actual production in units. So these two elements, you always flex them whenever you want to use them. So standard quantity of actual production, In some of our literatures, they will just put it in a way, because I'm looking at the way to write it. Standard quantity of actual production. Let me just put it that way. In your book, you can write it in a very clear way. Standard quantity of actual production, less what? Less actual quantity. Less actual quantity. Less actual quantity multiply by the standard price. Multiply by the standard price. Just 1 minute. Systems. So standard quantity of actual production my slide has slide is gone. So it is standard quantity of actual production
Daniel. Hi. How are you? Yeah, good time. How are you? Where is Miss Omori? Don't share it about her.
Wow. Somebody is making noise. Somebody is making noise.
That's a can.
Serious.
Maybe they take her to your
She said she's coming. She will have to calm down.
Wow. This is
It's
Mr.
crazy.
Babajide,
Mr. Babajide. Hi.
my
Sorry, I lose that that's my write up. So I just have to I lose those write ups. I was not saving. So I'll just continue. Before I send this slide, I'll add other things. So we have our price variance to be, let me rewrite it. Price variance. Hope you can see my screen, please. So be standard price less actual price multiplied by actual quantity purchased. Actual quantity purchased. Now, in terms of quantity, variance, in terms of quantity variance, we have this to be So, material price variance. Material price variance. And these, we have material usage variance. Material usage variance. And it will be what? It's a standard quantity of what? Of actual production
Actual production minus actual quantity.
minus actual quantity multiplied by what? The standard price. Multiplied by the standard price. At first, you can write it in full if you think some of these acronyms will not make you to understand it. As you keep solving, you get used to the acronyms and you don't need to write them in full again. So when we talk about quantity variance, we are looking at the difference between the quantity multiplied by what it should have cost. What it should have cost. That is in terms of material usage variance. The difference between what? The quantity, that is the quantity difference multiplied by what it should have cost. What it should have cost. What it should have cost is what? The standard price that have been set. So standard quantity of actual production less actual quantity multiplied by what? The standard price. Multiplied by the standard price. And I said standard quantity is always flexed in relation to the actual production. In relation to actual production. So we can have the issue of labor. Labor. I'm going to take this topic in piecemeal gradually so that you appreciate it. I'm not just going to bombard you like that. So materials, talk about material, then we have the issue of labor as a component of cost. As a component of cost. Labor. When we talk about labor, what is labor? Those days, when we talk about factors of production, we define labor as the mental and physical effort of man exerted towards a production process. So, and the reward for labor is what? The reward for labor is what? Wages and salaries. Wages and salaries. And or wages or salaries rather. So, labor, when we talk about labor in terms of money, what are we referring to? In what way can you term labor in terms of money? You look at labor rates. Labor rates. Labor rates. Do you pay your workers rightly? Are you paying them their right entitlements? So in terms of payments, looking at labor in terms of payments, in terms of price, you look at labor rate variance. Labor rate variance. And we look at labor rate variance. What will be the possible formula? What will be the possible formula? Considering the fact that we are comparing standard and actual. So labor rate variance will be what? Labor rate variance.
So let me try.
Yes, I want the trial, yeah.
I think it should be standard
Can I
rate minus actual
actual
rate multiplied by actual hours used.
All right, so very fine. Yes. Somebody wants to try again? So
I wanted to say standard.
I'm there.
Are you there?
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
I wanted to say standards are multiplied by, standard R minus actual R multiplied by standard rate.
Okay, that one will be for quantity, efficiency. Efficiency. When you're looking at
Okay,
efficiency,
efficiency.
you'll be looking at the hour. The hour. But now we're trying to look at the price. You can see my classification. I'm classifying them under price and quantity. So in terms of looking at the monetary value of labor, the labor rate variance, it will be your standard rates. How much have you fixed? Have you set as standard? How much are you now actually paying them? And that will be weighted by what will be multiplied overall by the actual hours paid for. The actual hours paid for. So in simple terms, the memory trick is this. When you see labor rate variance, you're asked to compute labor rate variance. What you should do, what are the rate differences? The rate differences. And what will be the component of rate differences? It will be your standard rate and your what? Your actual rate. Weighted, that is multiplied by what? Hours actually paid for. Hours actually paid for. So that will be for the labor rate variance. The labor rate variance. And we will now have it as what? The formula will be what? Standard rate less what? Actual rate multiplied by what? The actual hours paid for. Actual hours paid for. Paid for. It's good I write some of these things like this so that when we are solving a question, you will see in some question you can see actual hour. You can see actual hours worked, actual hours paid for, or you just see different scenarios. So you must be able to interpret and know the variable to pick at that particular point. So that is why I'm writing some of these things in full. Actual hours paid for. Yes. So in terms of quantity, labor can be seen in terms of quantity, in terms of efficiency. Talking about efficiency, did workers take more or less time than expected? Or we have more idle time? What will be the effect to the overall performance? So this is talking about efficiency. Efficiency. So when you're talking about efficiency, you are looking at the number of hours it takes you to achieve a particular task. What is the standard that have been set? What is the actual that in relation to what? The standard rate. So I said two things will always be flexed. Two things will always be flexed. One, I said your standard quantity. The other is what? You didn't write it.
Actual
You always
production.
Standard R.
fine standard hour. We always be in relation to the actual unit produced, actual production. So we can have the labor efficiency variance. Labor efficiency variance. Labor efficiency variance. And the formula will be what? Standard hour based on what? Standard hour based on actual production. If you check some of your literature, this is how they will write it. Based on actual production. BOAP. Standard hour based on actual production. Minus what? Minus actual hours worked. Actual hours worked. If you are using your book, you can write it in full. It's your book. Write it in full so that when you are going through it, you'll be able to understand. We want understanding now. Yes. Don't just run to those big questions in the Pathfinder. You will not like it. So you must get this very well before you run there. So now, actual hours worked. Standard hours based on actual production, less actual hours worked, multiply by what? Your standard rates. The standard rates that have been set. So when we talk about efficiency variance, the memory trick is this. The time difference. What is the time difference? The time difference weighted by what? The standard rate. The standard rate, the hourly rate. So that is efficiency, talking about hours. Labor rates, talking about the fee, the wages, the salaries, yes, in terms of money being paid to the workers. Standard rates less actual rate multiplied by actual hours paid for. The labor efficiency variance is standard hours based on actual production less actual hours worked multiplied by the standard rate. These things are not difficult. When you pick your book and you write this formula like 5 to 10 times, you will get used to it. You get used to it. It's what I've done before, and I'm saying it again. When you write the formula for material price variance, you might think you are doing child's play. When you write it over and over again, it will just become part of you. Yes. When you write the formula for material usage variance like 10 times, you think you are doing tracing, nursery one thing. It's not, it's a serious matter. It will just become part of you because you put it down over and over again. These are some mathematics tricks some of my Ghanaian mathematics tutor put into us and we've developed over time. Yes. So it has worked, it's still working. So each of these formulas, create time in case this is your first time of coming across some of these things. Take your time, write them out. You are not wasting your time. It might look as if you are wasting your time. It's a lie. You're not wasting your time. You write it out one after the other. You can write it 10 times. You get used to it. You write it over and over again. As you write it, you start working with it using questions. You discover that it's not something that is difficult. So this is for labor efficiency variance. Another component of cost can be what? Another component of costs can be what? Variable overhead. Variable overhead. Variable overhead. Variable overhead. Variable overhead. So when we talk about variable overhead, we can look at variable overhead in terms of price and quantity likewise. We can look at expenditure variance, variable expenditure variance. Yes, variable expenditure variance. So in a question, you'll be giving standard variable rates, you'll be giving actual variable rates in a question. So what will you do when you are asked to compute the expenditure variance? The expenditure variance. The expenditure variance. The expenditure variance for variable overhead. Can you make an attempt of what the formula will look like? Now, this expenditure variance will also be in terms of rate. It will be in terms of rate. Of rate. It will be in terms of rate. So this variable overhead, it behaves like the labor variance. It behaves like the labor variance. So it entails rates. Rates. It looks at the issue of rates likewise. Rates. Rates. So when we are to determine the components of this expenditure variance in terms of variable overhead, what do you think will likely be the formula? We're going to have it in this way. Standard variable rates minus what? Actual variable rates multiply by what? Multiply by what? The actual hours. Multiply by the actual hours. Multiply by the actual hours. The component of variable overhead in the question, you will see it. Variable overhead or variable manufacturing overhead is this: 4 hours by 5 naira per hour. If you check the question I forwarded, you see such. So you see the components. So for you to get your variable expenditure variance, it will be your standard variable rate less actual variable rate multiplied by what? Your actual hour. So same memory trick. Your time difference in relation to what? In relation to your actual hours. In relation to your actual hours. That is for the expenditure variance. Now, for efficiency variable variance, that is in terms of quantity now, we'll look at efficiency variable. Efficiency variable, not expenditure now. Efficiency variable variance. Efficiency variable variance. Efficiency variable variance. Now, when you look at this efficiency, based on the labor efficiency, what do you think the formula will be? What do you think the formula will be?
Standard
Say it.
efficiency R.
Standard what?
The standard efficiency R. Efficiency R.
Okay. Okay.
Less actual efficiency R.
Hour.
Sorry, I didn't get it clearly.
Standard efficiency R.
Okay.
Less actual efficiency R.
Okay.
Can I try,
Okay.
sir?
Very well. The floor is open for trial. It is in trying that you know it. Yes. As you
Okay.
try, you know it.
Okay. I guess it's going to be the standard hour minus the actual hour times the standard rate per hour, standard rate of the variable overhead per hour.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So it's still going to be same formula with that of labor. But in this case, you are looking at the variable elements because the variable element will be given. Yes, the variable elements will be given. So it's still going to be your standard hour of variable of the variable overhead. It will be given in the question, but we said standard hour will always be flexed. Standard hour based on what? Actual production minus what? Minus actual hours worked. That is actual hours based on variable element multiplied by what? The standard rate. Multiply by the standard rate. Same. But what you are looking at in this case is the variable overhead component in that question. In that question. Is this clear? Or is not clear?
It is clear.
Okay, fine. Let it be clear. Because when we go to that question, we'll do one, then you now solve one. So I'll teach one, you now teach me the other one. You understand? So that is how we'll do it. Because I want to remove that notion of this thing is hard. Me, I don't believe anything is hard. Yes, that is my own perception. It might take me time to know it. Yes, but I will face it. So in facing it, you discover it is easy. And that is one of the things that is making me teach performance management, because the notion is this thing is difficult. This thing is difficult. So that thing that is difficult is what I want to teach. Yes. That thing that is complex. Let me go and see what is there. So the next component of cost can be what? Based on what we've outlined and based on our discussion in budget, when we were doing our flexible budgets, we did some cost separation. Yes, and it was an interesting one. So what will be the next component of cost?
Fixed cost.
Fixed overhead.
Fine.
Fixed overhead, fixed cost overhead.
Fixed overhead.
Fixed overhead cost.
Yes, don't worry, just be jamming the words anyhow. We are learning.
Fixed overhead cost.
Like say fixed flexible overhead, fixed horrible overhead. We are learning, don't worry. With time, you will know the right way to put it when you become a tutor too. So fixed overhead is also a component of cost. So in looking at fixed overhead, in terms of price, what will you look at? This fixed overhead now is talking about the issue of budget. Yes, I don't want to waste time about this. It's talking about the issue of budget. The issue of budget. In a question, you can have your budget values. Yes, in a question, you can have issue of budget in a question, and you'll be required to determine your expenditure fixed overhead budget variance. You can be required to determine your fixed overhead volume variance. So in terms of expenditure, fixed overhead expenditure, what are we going to look out for based on the formula? You can be asked to determine your expenditure stroke what? Stroke fixed overhead budget variance. Fixed overhead budget variance. This is very straight and direct. The formula will be what? In terms of fixed overhead expenditure, it will be your budgeted fixed overhead less what? Your actual fixed overhead. But in some questions, there might be some workings to determine this. Budgeted fixed overhead, fixed overhead, writing it in full minus less actual. Please make sure you are writing so that you know how to put it well in your book. Less actual fixed overhead. Less actual fixed overhead. So we're looking at the variance, your standard in relation to your actual. So your budgeted fixed overhead less actual fixed overhead. That is for expenditure fixed overhead budget variance. So for the quantity side, in terms of for quantity now, based on fixed overhead, we're looking at volume variance. The volume. That is fixed overhead volume variance. Fixed overhead volume variance. See, fixed fixed overhead volume variance. Fixed overhead volume variance. Fixed overhead volume variance. Now, for you to determine your volume variance, the formula will be what? Volume have to do with production. Your production. It will be your budgeted production. Let's go that way. Your budgeted production. Budgeted production. Less what? Less actual production. Less actual production. All these will be weighted by what? The fixed overhead absorption rates. Fixed overhead. You can write it in full, please. Fixed overhead absorption rate. FOAR. Fixed overhead absorption rate. The elements of this will be given in the question. You'll see all these in the question. So we're going to now, in solving variance, your outcome will either be favorable or unfavorable. Your outcome will either be what? Favorable or unfavorable. So when your standard, in terms of cost, so I explained this while we're treating flex budget. In terms of cost expenditure, if your standard is greater than your actual, what will be the outcome in terms of cost? If your standard is greater than your actual, it will be
Favorable.
wow. Can you get my question again? In terms of cost, if your standard, right, is greater than your actual,
So it's favorable now.
fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. I want to be very sure. I want to be very sure you. So it's favorable. So in the other way around, if your actual in terms of cost is greater than what your standard, it will be what?
Adverse.
To be adverse. Now, in terms of revenue, in terms of inflow revenue, if your actual is greater, than your standard, the outcome will be what?
Favorable.
It's favorable. In terms of revenue, money coming in. But if your budgeted, if your actual is less than your budgeted, it is what? It is adverse. It is adverse. So we're just going to pick this little today, and we're going to solve the question I forwarded on the platform. Where is the question now? What's the question? All right, we're going to solve that question. When we solve that question, I'll now send another one as an assignment. We have this example. This example here. I said example 1. Roots Manufacturing has developed the following standards for one of its products. Standard cost card. You can see 1 unit of product. This is a cost card for 1 unit. If you want to produce 1 unit of this product, the standard that have been set is this. This is it up here. It means the standard is you should use 10 yards of material, and 1 yard will cost what? 6 naira. So if you are using 10 yards, overall the cost will be what? 60 naira. the cost will be 60 naira. To produce 1 unit, the standard in terms of labor, the standard in terms of labor, the standard in terms of labor, how many hours do you need to produce 1 unit? The standard based on standard.
4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours.
Based on standard, how much will you pay for 1 hour?
8
8
naira.
naira.
8 naira.
8 naira.
If you are now using 4 hours, how much will you now pay overall?
32 naira.
82 naira. 82.
32. Please, you must be able to interpret in this way. I know I'm doing this. Fine. In terms of variable manufacturing overhead, to produce 1 unit of this product, you need how many hours? Based on
4
variable.
hours.
1 hour will cost you how much based on variable?
5 naira.
5 naira.
So overall, if you are now using 4 hours, how much will you pay as labor rate?
20 naira.
20 naira.
Fine. So the total standard cost to produce 1 unit will now be what?
112 naira.
112 naira.
112 naira.
Fine. This is the standard that have been set by Root Manufacturing Company. Let's read further. The company records material price variance at the time of purchase. The following activity occurred during the month of April. This is the actual results now. Material purchased. We purchased 10,400 yards, costing what? 59,800. You should ask yourself, what is the cost of 1 yard? If 10,400 yard costs 59,800, what is the cost of 1 yard? What will be the cost of 1 yard?
5.75.
5. You divide what? 59,800 by what? 10,400. Isn't it?
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Now, if you look at this question based on actual material purchased 10,400, material used is what? 9,500 yards. You can see
9,500.
it's not all you purchased that you used. Do you see that? You purchased 10,400 and you used how many yards? 9,500. Fine. How many units did you produce based on actual? 1,000 units. You produced 1,000 units.
Hold on.
Now, direct labor. How many hours did you use overall based on actual? 4,200 hours.
4,200 hours.
How much did you pay for these 4,200 hours?
85,700.
Fine. So if you want to now know how much will you pay per hour?
35 naira.
Easy.
So how much will you pay per hour based on the actual? If you use 4,200 hours and overall you pay 35,700, how much will you pay per hour?
8.5.
Fine. 8.5. You see this analysis I've done. That is how I always want you to look at questions. Whenever you see question on variance analysis, you look at it. They will give you in some, they will give you the total. You need to get it in units. You understand? In that order. And you must always see that so it's not all you purchase that you always use. Yes. So you can see material purchase, material use. And that is why while I was showing my formulas, I was showing them in that order. That is actual hours paid for, actual quantity purchased in that order. You understand? Because some questions might give you purchase and use differently. So you should be able to know what to do per time. So the question is required. Calculate the direct material price variance. Calculate the direct material price variance. Calculate the direct material usage variance. Calculate the direct labor rate variance. Calculate the direct labor efficiency variance. So what are we going to do now? Solution. Let's have our solution. The first is to calculate the direct material price variance. The direct material price variance. Direct, so one. Okay. Direct material price variance. Direct material price variance. Based on our computation, our expression of formulas, we want to determine, see the difference between the standard price and what? The actual price of material in relation to the actual quantity purchased. Now, our formula will be what? The formula will be what?
Standard price
minus actual
minus
price,
actual price times
actual quantity purchased.
quantity.
Standard price minus what? Actual price
Times actual quantity
Is it just actual quantity?
produced.
Purchased. Actual quantity purchased.
Yes.
Actual quantity purchased.
Quantity purchased.
Actual quantity purchased. So from this question now, the standard price is what? In terms of material.
6 naira.
Very good. Don't come and pick 60 naira. Do you understand? The cost of 1 yard of material is what? 6 naira.
6 naira.
This 60 naira is the cost of how many yards? 10 yards.
10 years.
Take notes. Though we can solve it in two different ways, but let's just go by this method. I don't want confusion. So now, the standard price for 1 yard is what? Is 6 naira.
6 naira.
The actual price is what? In terms of material, actual.
5.7.
5 naira.
Actual. 5 what?
5 naira. 75.
5.75.
It will be 5.75. How do we get that? Let me show it. Let me show it.
59 divided.
Material purchased is what?
1,800.
59,800 divide by what? Divide by the total yards, actual total yard purchase, 10,400. You are going to get what? The price for 1 yard to be what? 5.75. So your actual price will be naira 75 kobo per yard for 1 yard. The actual quantity purchased is what?
10,400.
10,400.
10,400. 10,400. So what will now be your direct material price variance?
2,600.
Favorable or adverse?
Favorable.
So we have it as 2,600. This is favorable. Why is it favorable? The standard is 6. The actual 5 naira 75 kobo. It means there is cost savings. Yes, we were able to save. We're able to save some money. Yes. And what do you think might be the cause of this? What do you think might be the cause of this? We might have,
Bargaining power.
yes, bargaining power. Well, we might have purchased higher quantity than planned. So, and we might have been giving some discounts. Or we might have used substitute products. Maybe due to unavailability of the original planned material. And in some cases, some organization might have decided to buy inferior products, inferior material. But it will tell on them in the long run based on the quality of the output. And there can be issue of changes in market condition. Yes, it might be favorable to the purchase of the direct material. So some question might not just want you to get the results. They might want you to go for that, to tell them possible reasons for this variance. And beyond the figures, you must be able to explain. So any question about direct material price variance? Any question? This is the basis. This is the foundation. By the time you are not getting this now.
Mr. Tokpe, I have a question.
All right, what is the question?
So I don't understand how we minus 5.75 because I don't know where you are getting it from, to be honest. Is it this?
This is it, ma. The material purchase. Are you seeing the question? 10,000.
I'm not my glasses, so I'm struggling to see.
Oh, and I can't borrow you mine. Let me increase it.
Yeah.
No wonder you're asking this question. Can you see, ma?
Yes, sir. I can see that.
You see this 5.75? We talked about it here. See it here.
Okay.
That is based on the material purchase is this 10,400 yards, right?
Yes.
Actual. How much did you incur in getting this whole 10,400 yards?
59,800.
So the question is, what is the cost of 1 yard? Based on the actual. It is 59,800 divided by what? 10,400.
Oh, okay.
And that is the workings we've shown here.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other question? The next is calculate the direct material usage variance. 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 So our formula will be what? For direct material usage.
Standard rate. Standard rate.
Standard quantity.
Standard quantity for actual production
Actual production
minus
minus
actual
actual quantity
Okay, standard quantity.
multiplied by
Sorry.
standard price.
Okay. Okay. The formula would be what? Standard quantity
Of actual production.
standard quantity of actual production. Of actual production. Minus what?
Actual quantity.
Actual quantity. Actual quantity. Actual quantity. Actual quantity. Multiply by what?
Standard price.
Standard price. Standard price. By standard price. Standard price. So based on the question, our standard quantity based on actual production will be what? To produce 1 unit, the standard quantity will be what? Sorry, and that have let me reduce this back.
10 yards.
Okay, fine. Our standard quantity is 10 yards. See it here.
10 yards.
10 yards. To produce 1 unit, how many quantity do you need in terms of yard? 10 yards. See it here, 10 yards. Now, in relation to the actual unit produced, what is our actual unit produced?
1,000 units.
See it, unit produced, 1,000 units. So based on the formula, it will be what? Standard quantity of actual production. So you multiply the standard quantity. The standard quantity is what? Is 10 multiplied by the actual production is what? Is 1,000. Minus the actual production.
10,400.
The actual quantity rather. The actual quantity is what? 9,000.
9,500.
Material used.
Used. 9,000.
Material used. 9,500. Material, actual quantity of material used. Because we're talking about usage now. Usage, not purchase. Usage. You understand? What you use in the actual sense. So it's 9,500. In relation to what? The standard price. The standard price is what?
Naira.
Standard price. You go to your standard. The standard price is what?
6
See,
Naira.
6 naira. 6 naira. 6 naira per yard. So by 6 naira.
Excuse me, Mr. Topman. Mr. Topman,
I can hear you, ma.
please, I don't know where you got that
The 10, ma.
multiplied by 1. Yes, sir.
All right, ma. So this is it, ma. The standard quantity, see it here, 10 yards,
All right, thank you.
in relation to your actual unit produced of 1,000. So that is the standard quantity of actual production. 10 multiplied by 1,000. You have 10,000. The actual quantity used, that is material used, 95, and we have it 9,500. The standard price for 1 yard is 6 naira per yard. So we have it as this. So when you minus and multiply, the result will be what? The result will be what?
3,000.
Is this favorable or adverse?
Favorable.
So we have it as 3,000. 3,000 favorable. 3,000 favorable. Multiplying by price, so it should be this. So material price, okay, we've talked about that. So this is the material usage variance, which is computed based on standard quantity of actual production less actual quantity of material used multiplied by what the standard price. Any question about this? Any question about this? All right, let's take it further. Going back to the question, calculate the direct labor rate variance. The direct labor rate variance. What is the formula? Direct labor rate variance.
Standard rate minus actual rate multiplied by actual hour paid for.
So let's go there now. C. We have it as direct labor rate variance. Direct labor rate variance. We said the formula is what? Standard rates minus what? Standard rates minus actual rates. Actual rates multiplied by what?
Actual hours paid for.
Fine. Actual hours paid for. You must be able to interpret these things this way. Because if you go to your books, they will not tell you actual hours paid for, they'll just tell you actual hours. So in some questions, you might see hours in different forms. So you must know the one to pick. So, but I'm defining it in this way so that you know what to do per time. So standard rate. In terms of labor rate, what is the standard? Rate. Rate is talking about money now.
8 naira.
8 naira per hour. 8 naira per hour. So based on the formula, we have it, the standard rate is 8 naira minus the actual rate. The actual rate, let's go and look for it. Looking at this question, we said direct labor rate, right? Variance. In terms of actual, we have direct labor 4,200 hours, costing what?
35.7.
So they didn't give us the cost of 1 hour. We have to determine it. If we used 4,200 hours and we incur 35,700 naira, what would be the cost of 1 hour?
8.5.
Fine, 8.5. That is 35,000 naira, 35,700 naira divided by 4,200 hours. We give you the cost of 1 hour, the labor rate for 1 hour. And this will lead us to this point where we have the actual rate to be what? To be 8.5. But let's show, how do we get the 8.5? It will be what? Let's say actual labor rate. Actual labor rate. We have it to be equal to what? That is 35,700 divided by what? 4,200. We have it to be equal to what? To be equal to 8 naira 50 kobo. So coming back here, the actual hours paid for. The actual hours paid for is what? Actual. This is it. You've actually paid for this number of hours, 4,200 hours. So you multiply that by 4,200 hours. 4,200 hours. So what will be the outcome here?
Adverse.
You budgeted 8 naira per hour. The actual is 8 naira 50 kobo per hour. Outcome will be what?
Adverse.
Okay. 2,100 naira adverse. Because the actual is greater than the standard. Any question? Any question? See, it's time for dinner. I can hear all those things. So now the D part, that what? Calculate the direct labor efficiency variance. Direct labor efficiency variance. The formula is what? Direct
Standard
labor.
hour based on actual production minus actual hour worked multiplied by standard rate.
Okay. That at least you are beginning to enjoy the formulas, right?
Yes.
Don't worry. You enjoy it much more better. By the time you solve 5 questions, you appreciate it. So we said the formula is what? Standard what?
Hour
Standard
Based-
hours.
based on actual production.
Yes. Based on actual production minus actual hours
Worked.
minus actual hours. Actual hours worked multiply by what?
Standard rate.
Multiply by standard rate. Standard rates. Standard rates. So based on these now, the standard hours based on actual production will be what? Let's go back to the question. The standard hour is what? Standard hour is what? 4
4 hours.
fine, 4 hours.
4 hours.
Based on the actual units produced. 4 hours. Based on the actual units produced, it will now be what? The actual unit produced is 1,000.
1,000.
Standard hours based on actual unit produced will give us what? 4 multiplied by 1,000
4,000.
minus
4,000.
the actual hours worked is what?
4,200.
Actual hours worked. See, it's direct labor. You actually use how many hours? 4,200 hours. So that is the actual hours worked. Actual hours worked. That is 4,200. Multiply by the standard rate. The standard rate going to your standard cost card. The standard rate is what?
8.
8 naira. 8 naira. So we have it as what? 8 naira. So when you simplify this, you have it as what? 4,000 minus what? 4,200
Bye-bye.
multiplied by what? 8 naira. Your variance will be what?
1/6 adverse.
It is adverse because the actual is greater than the standard. 1,600 adverse. Any question about this? Any question? Let's move straight to the other question. So you people will guide me in solving this. I'll help you read it. Don't worry. Me, I'll read it for you. Then you tell me what to do. Tell me what to do now. So it's not something difficult. It is a function of mindset. Yes. So it's mindset. When you are hearing variance. So I trust God to have time so that we'll touch every aspect of variance. Every aspect of it. Yes. Will not leave any stone unturned. So we touch every aspect. So this is the first aspect we are going to discuss. Now, let me help you read. So as I'm reading, you will now know what to do. Fee Can company manufactures recyclable soft drink cans. The unit of production is a case of 12 dozen cans. It means a unit of production constitutes 12 dozen cans. Fine. The following standards have been set by the production engineering staff and the controller. Direct material 4 kg at 80 kobo per kg. Direct labor, 0.25 hours at 16 naira per hour. Actual material purchase amounted to 240,000 kg at 81 kobo per kg. Actual cost incurred in the production of 50,000 units were as follows. Direct material, we incur 170,000 naira. To purchase 210,000 kg. Direct labor, we incurred 210,600 naira for 13,000 hours. You are required to compute and analyze relevant variances. Now, unlike the first case, they help you. They were telling you calculate direct labor, calculate story, calculate that. In this case now, they are telling you calculate the relevant variance. So in the exam hall now, what will you do? Exam have started. So what are we going to do? I need a guide. Me, I will just be writing. You tell me what to do.
We are
In this
going to
case,
calculate. We are going to
uh,
calculate direct material and direct labor variances.
okay.
Those are the variances we are going to calculate. So we start from material price variance.
Okay, before you move further, how did you know that those are the variances, man?
Because those are the
They are the
items I
relevant
seen. I saw
items.
direct material, direct labor. I did not see variable overhead. I did not see any other thing. So that's why I just based my understanding that we are going to calculate those two.
Okay, that is very good. Yes, that is very good. I asked that question to clear some issues. Yes, because when you go to the examination hall and they say calculate relevant variances, you look at the data in the question. What are the things you can come up with, the relevant variance you can come up with from the given information? So those are the variance you calculate. I have questions in the I can pass question like that. They will just tell you calculate relevant variances. So you are the one that will now decide these are the variances you have to compute based on the given information. So we are going to calculate what variance do you say, ma? So let me be writing now solution.
Solution number one, material price variance.
Okay, fine. Solution. Say one. Okay. You said material.
Price variance.
Okay. Okay, let me do it this way. Let me chip in something. The relevant variances. The relevant variances are material and labor related variance. Labor related variance. Labor related variances. So one, we said the material price variance. Material price variance. So to compute the material price variance, what do we need?
Standard price minus actual price.
Okay, formula is standard price minus actual price in relation to what?
Actual quantity purchased.
Actual quantity purchased. Actual quantity purchased. Actual quantity purchased. So based on the question, what will be your standard price in terms of material?
80
0.8.
kobo. 80 kobo.
Very good. That is 0.8. 80 kobo. See it here. You know, from the question, for emphasis purpose, the following standard have been set by the production engineering staff and the controller. direct material, these are the standard. These are the standard that have been set. So in terms of the material we are going to the market to buy, what is the standard price? See, it's 80 kobo per kg. The actual price will be what?
81 kobo.
Yes, that actual material purchase amounted to what? 240,000 kg at what? 81 kobo per kg. So the actual quantity purchased is what?
240,000.
Yes, see, it's actual material purchase amounted to 240,000 kg. So we have it 240,000 kg.
Advance.
Your material price variance will now be what?
2,400 adverse.
So we have it as 2,400 adverse. Any trouble about this? So which form of variance do you think we can compute again?
Material usage.
Material usage.
Fine. So material usage variance. Material usage variance. And our formula is what?
Standard quantity of actual production minus actual quantity multiplied by standard price.
I love the way you're giving me the formula, sir. Standard quantity of actual production. Standard quantity of actual production less actual quantity, right?
Yes, sir.
Actual quantity. Multiply by what?
Standard price.
Multiply by the standard price. Going by the question, our standard quantity of actual production will be what?
4.
4. 4. In relation to the actual production. The actual production is what? The actual production is what?
50,000 units, right?
1,000.
Material usage. Material usage.
Just leaving, which is just a second.
Okay. So we now have it as what?
Around 10,000.
Our standard quantity will be what? Standard quantity of actual production. We now have it as what?
4.
4. In relation to what? To 50,000. To 50,000. Minus the actual quantity is what? Actual quantity is what?
210,000.
210,000. 210,000. That is the actual quantity. See it here. Direct material. 170 was paid to get 210,000 kg. So we have 210 kg Now, your standard price for the material is what?
80 kobo.
80 kobo.
80 kobo. 0.8. Now, the result will now be what? This will be 200 minus 210.
Adverse.
Adverse 0.80. So when you minus and multiply, the result will be what?
8,000.
We have it as 8,000 naira. Is it favorable or adverse?
Adverse.
Adverse.
Because the actual is greater than the standard, the budgeted. So 8,000 naira adverse. Any question about this? Any question? Is what? What kind of variance can we compute?
Direct labor rate variance.
Direct labor rate variance. Direct labor rate variance. Our formula is what?
Standard rates minus actual rates multiplied by actual hours worked.
Paid for.
Okay. Standard rates
Paid for.
minus actual rates multiplied by what? Actual hours paid.
Paid for. Paid for.
Paid for. Right. So based on this question, our standard rate will be what?
16
naira. See it. How much are you paying? Rates, money. How much are you paying per hour? So you have it as 16 naira. The actual rate will now be what? Let's go to the question. Direct labor. Overall, you pay 210,600. When you use 13,000 hours, how much will you pay for 1 hour?
16.2.
16.2.
Fine. It means your actual rate will be 16.2. How do you get that? It will be, let's say, actual rate will be equal to what? Will be equal to 210,600 divided by what? 13,000. This will give you what? This will give you 16.2. So once you have this, your actual hours paid for is what?
Another instance of
13,000.
13,000.
4,000 hours.
So when you simplify, what will be your outcome?
2,600 adverse.
Is that?
2,600 adverse.
Okay. So we now have it as 2,600 adverse. Any question about this? What will be the next form of variance?
Labor efficiency variance.
Labor efficiency variance. And our formula is what?
Standard
Able-
hour for
Standard
actual
hour based
production
We have it
minus
as
actual hours.
standard hours based on what? Actual production minus what? Actual
Actual hours.
hours. Actual hours. Multiply by what?
Standard
Standard rate.
Standard rate. So based on the question, our standard hour is what? Standard hour is what?
0.25 hours.
So it's 0.25 hours. In relation to the actual production,
50,000.
50,000. So we now have it as what? Standard hour, 0.25 multiplied by the actual production, 50,000 units. In case you are wondering where we're getting the 50,000, see it here. The actual cost incurred in the production of 50,000 units were as follows. So minus the actual hours. The actual hours. The actual hour is what?
13,000.
It's direct labor. Actual 13,000 hours. 13,000 hours. In relation to the standard rate, what is your standard rate?
16.
16.
See it. Come to your standard 16 naira per hour. So you multiply. What will be the result here?
8,000 February.
So 0.25 multiplied by 50,000. You are going to have what?
12,500.
12,500 minus 13,000. So multiply by 16. The outcome will be what?
8,000 February.
8,000 adverts.
8,000
February.
adverse.
Is it adverse?
Adverts new.
Your actual is greater than your standard. It's adverse. Any question about this? I know it's not everybody that this is clear to perfectly. Yes, it will not be clear perfectly now. So when you go back to it again. Yes, because I know I'm just asking any questions. Some people have questions. Some people, the thing is still looking like one magic. There's nothing like magic here. Is learn the formula, practice, and it will become part of you. So the point is, this night, if you know it's not clear to you, don't go to bed without solving these questions again. Yes, solve it. Today is Saturday. You are not tired. You didn't go to work. So solve it. Solve
Yeah,
it. Even
we
as
are
you solve it,
tired.
I will forward assignment. Me and assignment, you are 5 and 6. Don't worry. So solve it and solve these questions again. Yes. As you solve the question, it's not that you will get it perfectly. You still go back to the one we solve and see, okay, this is how it is being done. And when you do that first phase, you now go back and solve it without looking at the solution again. Yes. But before you solve it, try and write the formula out in your book. Write them out over and over again. Yes. When you write them over and over again, then on your own, interpret it to yourself. Interpret the formulas to yourself. That, okay, this is it. This is it. So don't just try to cram and you start feeling headache. Yes. But make it practical. See it in a real life sense. that okay, this is it. The standard, once the standard is different from the actual, this is variance, this is this price variance, labor variance, and in that light, you have the understanding. So when you see question, you know what to do. Yes, but when you cram, you say they used to cram the formula. There is one shortcut they used to use. There is no any shortcut. Learn it. Yes, learn it. So we are starting on these notes so that everybody will be fine. So the assignments, most people are hungry for assignments. I have many assignments. So let's change this. Let's change the slide to where the assignment. Okay, fine. We are already there. Let's change it to where the questions are. So this is a question. It's also an example I used to solve, but I decided not to solve it this time. I used some other ones. But the point is, in this question, I have more variances. We have variable overhead spending variance, same thing as variable overhead expenditure. Spending is expenditure too. We have variable overhead efficiency variance, which is same as what? The efficiency variable variance. That we have the formula in our book, but based on the examples we solve in class, we didn't touch those two aspects. Those examples didn't ask us to solve those two aspects. Yes, and the variables for those two aspects were not available. So, but this is an assignment for you. Assignment 1. There's another one again. Assignment 1. This is assignment 1. So you go and solve. Calculate direct material price variance, calculate direct material usage variance, calculate direct labor rate variance, calculate the direct labor efficiency variance. If you can solve for variable overhead spending variance, variable overhead efficiency variance. The data are there. See it, variable manufacturing overhead is there, given to you in this form of standard. See, actual variable manufacturing overhead, the value is given actual. So you can solve. So you can screenshot. This is assignment 1. Let's go and look for the assignment 2.
So please, can you forward it to the platform?
Okay. I know somebody that have a good phone will do that for me. Hope this is clear. If it is clear, you can. Or if I can, I will send it. It will be part of the slide I will forward. Yes, just for you to check the slide. Then you see the question there. Yes. It will be part of the slide. So that is one. Where is the other one? I have another one. That one is not here. I'll send that one. So for now, this is where we're going to stop. Meet next week. I will expect solution to this assignment at least anytime from tonight. Solve those 2 questions we've treated, then you solve this one. So shouldn't take you 10 minutes to solve. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir.
Thank you,
Amen.
sir. God bless you.